You have been spending this week in San Francisco. Like you just said, every week is a tech week in San Fran. You've been going to a lot of meetups and have also participated in some hackathons. So I'd love to learn a little bit more and share that with our community. So maybe let's start with first things first. What's the vibe in San Fran?
Yeah, I think one, both in terms of quantity, the number of people that show up to events, I see it as a lot more packed. I also see the quality of events are also much higher than what I'm used to. And the people that are coming in, like I typically don't see people from rest of the country, quite honestly, fly in into Atlanta. But I've seen maybe regional people come in, but I've met people from Poland, from Germany, from different parts of the world come in and from India. And it's a recurring theme for them to just hang out for sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes for 3 months. They just hang out and then see what happens. I guess in some ways, which is what I did, I just wanted to show up and see what the scene is like. In terms of the sheer number of events, you have multiple events a particular night to go to, and you have to make a choice. And you have to apply. A lot of times, some of these events are they'll want to see your profile, your GitHub, your LinkedIn prior to them getting approved. So it's a lot more filtered down depending on what the event is.
That's interesting. Going to a different city and going to events where you don't know anyone can be overwhelming. What has worked for you in terms of breaking the ice and opening up a conversation with people?
What I did notice was when you go to Atlanta, for example, like people will be, who are you or who do you work for or what do you do? So that typically is the lead up question. I remember in a couple of my events that I went to early part of the week, the question would be, what are you working on or what are you building?
Mhm.
So straight up, people will ask, and or like on your name tag, you typically write down what is the product that you're working on. So I am working on something called Link Library. So they'll be like, what's Link Library? And that's it. And then you start talking. And sometimes the environment is pretty loud, so you have to raise your voice and speak. And after pitching like 10 or 12 times, and you're like drowned. So that happened multiple times that I'm like, once you pitch your project, and I don't want to talk now. But yeah, the lead up question is pretty common. What are you working on or what are you building? Those are the two common questions, and you have to respond back. Yeah, so I don't think unless you're extremely introverted. And the other thing, if you're just standing alone, I've had it an instance where I was just taking a break and somebody came up to me to say, let me come introduce you to a couple of other people. So they were also very welcoming in that they wanted to make sure that you're mingling as a part of the community.
That's phenomenal. All right, let's talk about what were some of your key technical learnings. San Fran is where innovation happens, as we all know. So tell us about what were some of your aha moments? What's really some of the technical learnings that you probably feel were not on your radar?
I typically do an event a day, and on Monday I went to the GitHub office in San Francisco. So it was very nice. When you walk in, they have a giant monitor with all the people making commits and pull requests and around the world. It was a very interesting display of how things came in. And
Interesting.
it was a meetup where they brought in 12 to, yeah, 10 to 12 presenters, and everybody had 2 minutes to demo their product. So I've done demos in 5, 7 minutes, but 2 minutes and you're out. So they did have talks from a couple of different companies. So I bumped into a company called Copilot Kit and some concept called Age UI. I still have to look into it, but it is the ability for agents to talk to UI. So I haven't fully grasped my mind around what exactly they're talking about. So you see a lot of people providing API layers, infrastructure layers. So I came across companies like Liquid Metal, Raindrop, MCP. So they're all helping developers build better, build more seamlessly. I saw category of software companies that are aiming to make developer life easy or infrastructure life easy. So think of it as people in the olden times used to make DevOps easy. Now they are making agent backend easy. So there is a lot of tooling and MCP and all those registry handling much easier. I probably wouldn't have run across anybody like this anywhere else, but there are model compression companies where they take a model and their only job is to, similar to how you zip a file, they zip a model. And they zip a model and in the attempt to put it on a device. So I don't know that I would have encountered a company like that in Atlanta, just to give you an example. But yeah, the demo night typically is like sponsors talk about their products for about 10 months, 10 minutes, and you can do Q&A. but rapid fire demos, and then you can hang out and talk to people. Perhaps one of the companies you may be interested in, given the product background, is a company that I came across called Tracer. They specialize in a ChatGPT style widget that opens on VS Code, and it is for product managers to write better PRDs. And once you write the PRD, it will reverse, take a look at the code base to see if the code was in line with what the PRD is. So there was an Indian founder. I think he's based out of somewhere here. He has a dev team of 7, and then he was talking about hitting about 100K ARR. So yeah, Monday there were conversations like that. People were building software to make memory easy across multiple AI tools. The name of the company was Paper. He was ex Amazon guy. Yeah, there is a couple of things I remember, and I saw like a recruitment software for the employees as opposed to employers. Some ideas on the, and then several voice apps. Like I've come across Whisperflow, come across apps where he talked about typical keyboard speed is X keystrokes a minute, and you would need much faster than that. And I didn't realize why did I need that software till yesterday. I was on a hackathon where I really did not have time. And I wanted to speak because I just was in a crunch mode. And then I realized the power of a voice keyboard compared to that. But yeah, you come across people doing AI agents, voice agents, infrastructure, and then people really working on models. So there is a blend of a few companies.
It sounds there is a lot more focus on building a more agentic infrastructure, right? Because most of the development so far has been done on traditional infra, both in terms of the UI patterns as well as the backend. But based on what you're describing, it looks like people are also revisiting that. Plus, zipping up, compressing a model. That's new to me. Like I wouldn't have thought of that, but makes sense. Let's talk about a tool or a solution that particularly stayed with you, whether it's relevant for link library or something that you think you could use beyond the voice keyboard, something that you feel you could really bring back to some of the development you're doing.
Yeah, I think there is a few tools that I've put in my pocket to do research. Tracer was one of them to see if I can write better PRDs. One of the tracks on yesterday's hackathon was a tool called CodeRabbit that is helping reduce bugs in half, doing pull requests much easier. So that would be another tool. There was also another tool, I forget the name of it, but it helps with coming up with designs and prototypes very quick. So particularly from a software development standpoint, I was looking for ability to speed up my design, ability to speed up my product thinking, product management, and the ability for me to do code coverage and release code quickly. So these were probably two, three things that I can think on top of my head. And I have seen how people implement voice. So I'd be curious to see how could I take some of the learnings from there. So I have several contacts of people. So that was more from an application side to see everybody uses VAPI or 11 Labs for the most part. I knew those tools, but how are they implementing it? So I'm probably going to look at how
Or
people are
what are the
doing.
ways they're probably thinking about
Yeah.
changing the workflows that were
Yeah, changing the
probably
workflows
tech
or
savvy in the past? Yeah.
yeah, one of the winners on yesterday's event was also a voice app where they were a real estate broker in sorts that you would essentially call it and say this is what you're looking for. The other it'll go and call people on your behalf, but people are doing voice integrations pretty commonly, so they all use the same stack. But I'd be more curious from a software development standpoint, how is that they've integrated? What are some of the challenges? But yeah, those are probably the 3 or 4 tools I'm thinking about, and that's across what I picked up 2, 3 days.
Great. Tell us any insights on MCP or A2A.
So Wednesday, I went to the event called AI Tinkerers. AI Tinkerers is a community that's around the world. It is builders for builders. So the reason I've actually presented in the Atlanta AI Tinkerers is that no slides, no pitch. You talk about your product and you talk about how you built it and you show your code. And you explain to people in 7 minutes, 5 minutes of demo and 2 minutes of questions of what it is. It's also a rapid fire mode. So to answer your MCP question, there are actually, I saw two camps. One of them was people are using MCP and they talked about how to find MCP registries, how to find vulnerabilities in MCP. So when you call MCP and when you find MCP registries, how do you know if that MCP is a security threat to potentially what you're doing or not? So there is that camp. There is also a camp where people are building native API based, only because MCP can add a little bit of a lag and overlay in terms of speed. So if you're building voice-based agents, I think it is hard to go through MCP because it takes a little bit of time away from it. But the third sort of agent protocol that I picked up is called this AGUI, Age UI. Age UI essentially says there is still a lot of screens that are built. So there is still a UI component. How do you make UI talk to agents? So that is the whole protocol called Age UI. And a
Right.
lot of people seem to know about what that is, but I had not, quite honestly, not heard about it before. So there is really agent to agent itself. There is MCP and A2A and other native protocols. They just want to talk native because it gives you more speed. But then if you are talking, and then one more interesting app that I found, I met this person who is YC 2025 person, and they are building a software email for agents. So what he was talking about is there is already you can do agents that will scan your email and Gmail,
Right.
but emails were built for humans. What you really need is an email for agents. So they're building a email for agents. So if agents were to communicate and if they had to have an email box for whatever reason, how what would that be? So I'm just going off
Very
of your
interesting.
question in terms of agents. So those are probably few things that stand out to me from an agent standpoint. And the one of the coolest demo that I saw was this company, Wordware, which is where very nice offices. We were in their offices. Their demo they showed really quick, conversationally in Wordware. I think they're a B2B as well as a B2C platform. They're getting into the new product. But I could basically say, hey, pull me all of my tickets from Linear, and it would go into Linear and search all of the tickets just by me just speaking into it. And it would also, they integrated Gordon Ramsay just for fun to say, speak like Gordon Ramsay and then go into the Slack channel and give a notification. So it was almost like funnily the PM would go open up all the tickets to say, hey, Bob, these are the 5 things you need to work on, and start yelling like Gordon Ramsay to say, go get it done. And it was a live demo that they showed in a couple of minutes. So that was an example of they did a rapid demo and that they didn't really want to use MCP. So there was a pro MCP camp and speed reasons anti MCP. So it was an interesting event.
Any interesting conversations around RAG or multi-agent orchestration?
I feel so. I'll think a little bit on Tuesday. I think I met one guy. I think he's an ex Microsoft person. So he talked about having integrated RAG. So RAG is not a hot topic. I think where it has moved on is what I feel now. Maybe it's my perception too, is that, yeah, I mean, it's one of those table stakes things that you have to do. There is no excitement around it. It's like pulling data from a database. Okay, yeah, sure,
Right.
yeah, we'll do it. So I think it's moved more on to that. I didn't hear so that there is no wow factor in talking about RAG. Yeah, sure, you can do it. I think, yeah, I think that was RAG. But one thing that I did meet a lot of so Tuesday's event was in a beer garden. So you just show up, there's like 100 people, 150 people, dense crowd. There's music, and you stand and you just talk like till you drop. So there was at least about 150 people. But I'll talk about three topics actually that I picked up. One of them was content creation. So this guy that I met, he was recording videos. I think his app is called Get Shorts AI or something. And I think you and I have talked about this before. I remember with Tyler last week. Editing videos is a pain.
Is fine.
So he has some device that he's wearing and he goes around all day long and records stuff. And apparently like his app will help edit it down and create shorts out of whatever you're sitting and recording and speaking, because I think he's trying to channel whatever you're talking all day so that you it gets context of what you're doing, plus you're recording it, he somehow marries it. And I think I'm on his wait list now, so I just saw his LinkedIn post where he talked about 65K downloads. So I need to get back to him to see what how I can get better. But so I met people like that where they are simplifying content creation. I
Okay.
also met a couple of other people that essentially were trying to make it easy for social media founders. Sorry, entrepreneurs and content creators. What is that we have to produce? So how can we produce organic content? I think the name of the company was Stan. I need to look it up a little bit more. But that gave me an idea of what I wanted to build on the hackathon, but I'll get to that. But so there were a camp of few people talking about content creators. I also met this company called Lava Payments, and I spoke a little bit about pricing. So they manage pricing. for AI companies. So I think it's a problem that is happening. I have that problem. So if you have a team of 4 or 5, how do you really figure out where do you monitor? How do you set up payments? Everybody's using different tools.
Yeah.
I'm using like Cursor, I'm using Claude, my coworker may be using something else. I want to give them control of what they want to do. So that's on the dev side, but also on the deployment side, you're using all of these things based on usage. You have 3 different APIs from multiple providers coming in, like we talked about 11 Labs or Vappy, or I use Grok. Like, how do you keep on top of all these
Yeah.
things? I mean, it is very painful. So I think they're trying to integrate payments. So that's also another thing that I've noticed, that in this last 1.5 years, there is pain that is becoming apparent, and people are solving pain for developers.
Yeah.
So that was that. But yeah, definitely met more voice agents where this company is doing sourcing, where if you're a bar, if you're a store running low on inventory, it will call people on your behalf, and then it will call people on your behalf and make calls to the suppliers. And then the suppliers can say if they have stock or inventory and then do distribution. So he talked about hitting 15K MRR. So yeah, so I think there's a lot. I mean, voice is a thing, backend stuff is a thing, content is a thing. But yeah, it was very similar to AI Collective, but so many people standing, just like 100 people, 150 people standing. And sometimes you notice the same people coming, or next day you go and meet somebody else. He said, "Oh, I was also in the event. I didn't see you," because there's so many people there. But yeah, so I think that was on Tuesday and Wednesday. But those are generally the type of people that I'm meeting.
What I'm hearing from you is that, of course, voice continues to come up everywhere. And I personally think voice is so underutilized right now when people are using AI tools. So it's good to see that it's at least showing up in the way we are innovating and thinking about new products. The other pattern I'm hearing from you is that there is growing focus on solving for infrastructure and operations around agentic solutions, whether it's in the form of payments, agent to agent communication, etc. But there is a whole ecosystem coming up to solve just for agentic solutions. So that's pretty evident as well. And then RAG maybe has taken a back seat. And I think generally the earlier iteration of models was based on training data. I think that's why RAG became so relevant. But now with everything connected to live search or even vectorizing your own context, your own data, I think context engineering becomes more relevant, and RAG is just a subset of it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's still, I think it doesn't have is anymore. So it is still something that people have to do. But it's like I said, you talk to a
Yeah,
database, you talk to RAG. Yeah.
it's relevant, but it's not front
Yeah.
and center. Like you said, it's table stakes now.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, let's switch to hackathon. Congratulations, by the way. You won second prize. That's great. Talk to us about what was the hackathon about? What did you build? What was the journey like?
Yeah. So I'd not organized hackathons in the past, but we did it over a period of a week, 2 weeks in a corporate setting. And I was a judge at one of the hackathon in Atlanta where they did do a 24-hour hackathon. This was a couple of years ago. But this time around, let me see, I thought, let me see what people are actually building. So no better way than to actually start going and doing these things. This was a hackathon that was organized at the AWS Builder Loft at Market Street in San Francisco. So I showed up at 9, so it was 9 to 8 in the evening, and they had 2 or 3 sponsors of certain products. So they had Liquid Metal, they had Raindrop MCP, and there was a software called Inkeep, and one more called CodeRabbit. You could choose to use their tracks. So if you choose their products as a part of what you're building, you obviously get a better shot of winning the money, or you could build their own. So and they said, typically I've seen hackathons where 3 or 4 people participate, but this one was, they said 2 people. And I got in like about 5 minutes early, and I just happened to talk to this guy, Edward, who recently graduated. We happened to sit on that same table, just grabbed our coffee, and they said 2 people. And then I talked to him like, what's your tech stack? What do you do? So he codes in React, Node, and Python, and Superbase, so typical stack, and I do relatively the same thing. So he said, yeah, he'll be down. So let's do it. And we had to come up with, so I had ideas. So I always have a list of ideas. So I had 5 or 6 ideas that I kind of talked about. But this particular idea that I did was born in San Francisco this week. So it was basically a culmination of me posting earlier this week. So I'm trying to figure out how did I come up with this. So I've been coding apparently most all days. And when I made a post, when I went to GitHub, it showed me a marker of every single commit that I made on every day. And I made a post on LinkedIn earlier this week. And then I met a lot of people on Tuesday when I talked about content creators, right? So they were really saying, how can I build content? We'll help you build organic content. So there was a recurring theme of people trying to figure out how can I build content. So that sort of stuck in my back. And then on Wednesday, I met a couple of co-founders, some from Germany, some from this guy from Spain. And distinctly, we had a conversation to say, he said, like, why are you recording all these things? Like, why are you posting? Why are you taking pictures? I said, this is something very important to do. Because if you don't do it, how do you get your word out? I hate doing all these things. So he said, I don't post, I don't do anything. So I think it stuck with me to say, okay, so there is a so then I rationalized with my partner Balaji to say, I basically asked him a simple question. What do you do every day? What do you and I fail, not without fail, do every single day? He said, we talk every day. I said, okay, we talk. What else do we do every day? He said, I commit code. I said, that's it. And then what is that we want to do every day? We want to go write in public. We want to build in public. So I do a better job of doing it, but still for me, I have to write it down. I have to do it. I said, what if there was a way that I take the commits that you make and then I convert that into a social post? So that was basically the idea. And I brainstormed this in my head all of my way into San Francisco because that idea, I basically came up with the idea Thursday morning. So I'm very clear where I was, what I was doing. It was the first thought that came in my head when I woke up. For some reason, I don't know why, I had listened to a YC podcast the night before. So several things must have happened. So my very clear idea was, what if there was a way to take commits and then make it as a post?
Mm.
So I knew exactly what to do. I'd already talked to ChatGPT, had done my research of how it is. And I happened to be, when I went to this hackathon, we had to use different software, and one of them was CodeRabbit. So CodeRabbit integrates into GitHub, and it's a very interesting software. CodeRabbit integrates to GitHub, and then it tells basically what happened. So like it's as you're a PM, program manager, product manager, imagine this, right? So what's your developer working on? They will never tell you, like till the week after. So I was thinking about you, I was thinking about Pooja. It's a painful process. Like, what if there was a way for me to just take all of your commits? I already know what you're working on in
Yeah.
Jira and Linear. What if I summarize all of that so there is a B2B aspect to it, but I could also do a B2C? So that was basically the idea to say, let's also figure out. I think Edward was pretty instrumental in thinking about how to use CodeRabbit, but we got down to business. So I pitched him one other idea, which was a book that I read over the weekend called Decision Matrix. How do you make quick decisions? And one of them was, I mean, I use it sometimes called the Eisenhower Matrix to see what if there was a to-do list and I break everything into Eisenhower Matrix. So I pitched him that. He said, no, let's do this. And then we have a better shot of winning. So we decided. So we started coding probably around 10:15, and time flies. So by the time we wanted to get something running, basic, and I had to test my theory to say, will the webhook work? So I was working on a lot of prompting, creating data sets to prove the hypothesis that if we build a product, would it work or not? So I was doing a lot of test data. In the meanwhile, he was trying to look at how to set up GitHub, how to connect CodeRabbit. So while he was doing it, I had the data. And then I remember around 12:30 or something, I said, look, I think I got it. So the way I got it was I showed, is this a tweet that you would want to send? He said, yes. So we worked backwards to say, if this is a tweet you wanted to send, what was the company you were working for? I created a JSON for it. What was the product you were working on? And what are the projects you're working on? And you give all of that context. And if you create a bunch of change lists every day, okay, is this a reasonable tweet for you to say? And it can tweet 5 times a day, 6 times a day. So he said, yeah. And then we ran one more data set. I said, come up with the app. He said, it's a dating app for people who to eat food. And so I generated a data set for it. And then there was a second data set. So that also worked. So we knew we had something there. So it was 12:45 then. The pizza was gone. We were like, okay, we don't have time to go walk around. So we took a walk around the block. So we had to break it down. What are you going to do in the next hour? So we walked around a circle and then we knew what to do. I said, you want to get something to eat? He said, no, I'm going to go back to code. And then I took one more walk and I wanted to start building the UI and connecting the GitHub. In the meanwhile, he was looking at CodeRabbit. But around 3:30, I had the whole UI done. I'll show you the UI, but So we had the UI done. We were starting to connect the dots, and we had some things that were not working on CodeRabbit. We talked to the CodeRabbit guys how to set it up, but yeah, we didn't have time. So that is where I was like, I didn't have time to go and eat because 5 o'clock, no hands on keyboard. So we had about 6 hours to code. So yeah, I think we were doing that, and things started looking up. And then I had the skeleton running, and then I started working on making UI improvements. We initially thought we would use a CodeRabbit report on the back end, but we said, okay, we should try to strive for an API integration. So we did that. We first thought we wouldn't use a database, and we said we'll use a SQLite. So we added more things into the application. And yeah, I think, and then once I started, then I connected our repo to the actual product. So I said, this is what he just committed. So I could see what he was doing real time. So then, yeah, and then I knew I had a product at that point. And I remember Eugene, I just took a break. I walked out and he said, you got only 30 minutes. You're done. He said, yeah, I think we're done. Right now, we're just thinking about what is that we want to say. But yeah, we felt good about the product. And because I know I could use it, I could see many other tech founders use it. But the overall, let me go back to there were 30 teams. So there were five judges, six teams each. So once we were done, we had to go to their table and then pitch to them. We
Oh,
had 6 minutes each, and they were pretty clear about cut down time and when to start. Six teams presented to each of the five judges, and that's how you made it to the semifinals. So we were one of the five teams, and the five teams had to present to the rest of the room. So we again had 6 minutes. And then that's when we presented in front of everybody. But there were, so the app, the five products that came out, one of them was building a chief of staff agent. The other one was building a house pal, which is a voice agent. There was one more around MCP security and vulnerability. And I think it was ours. And then there was one more. So I just had to take a break. I didn't know what the fifth one was, but I know the guy works for Anderson Horowitz. So that much I picked up. So there were these five people, but people are coming with double monitors, keyboard. They're like rocking, and you feel like it's like a poker tournament. So it was good. I
curious
mean, it
about
was
it.
about 100 people, but yeah, it was a good, interesting experience to go through.
Are we going to start seeing your posts now from
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna hook it
Hackathon
up.
Code? That's
You
great.
know,
I'll look forward to it.
I'll still post, but my AI will help me post now. So we will try to gamify that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I have like really good ideas on what to do with it now.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a good idea. I agree. I think, in fact, you might even want to take it broader and think about how PMs are doing all kinds of documentation and meetings all day, right? How can they reflect on their day also, whether
Yeah, yeah, I've thought about it.
or
So
being
yeah,
so I think it has potential to expand into multiple roles
right.
that matter.
Yeah, that's probably where I'll use a lot of backend integration and tools. So I have to look into Composio, I have to look into Glean. There is a few other software that I need to look at in addition or adjacent from N8N, but there are several options that have opened up for me. For example, in that use case, what if I want to go right to Asana? What if I want to go right to, Jira? So I'm not going to be building native integrations, but there are ways to do it.
And I think Composio has a pretty broad set of
Yeah.
native integrations. So that's great. All right, Sree, lots to learn. I'm sure we're going to continue to have more discussions on this in coming days. I'm looking forward to dive deeper. But as we conclude, what would you say is the overall sentiment in the Valley around AI?
I think people are all in. I've come across so many groups of people now. So I met a team. I only met a couple of people in the team, but think of it as 8 or 10 founders. They are taking Airbnb and staying there for a month. So that's the energy that they're bringing to the table. And a lot of people just, so it's all AI first, right? So there is no, and the other example that I found were people from Microsoft and Google trying to hang out and see what other people are doing. So this guy, I remember, I'm working at Chrome, whatever, right? So, okay, you're working at Chrome, but that's not where people are really interested in hearing. So there is a lot of people trying to break ground. And as we talked about, it is not just the front facing apps. People are also building how to make it easy for the developers. But there is no way we could have done all of this coding in one day without having leveraged AI, and nobody's asking you to leverage AI, not you are AI. There are so many tools that are coming and assisting you and supporting you. And yeah, I think this is the way people are building, and you actually see results come. It's not some sort of vaporware that you don't believe because we're standing up product in front
Yeah.
of you. Like I saw 25 apps being demoed. So I think this is real change happening. So yeah, I think I don't know if there is any other way out or this is it, and everybody has to build in any different capacity. That's something that we have talked about. There are tools available. You don't have to, there is an agent to build an agent. You can talk to it, like where we looked at Mind Studio and some of these other tools, Gamma and Lovable. Like you don't have to be even doing that coding. So there are several layers of, you'll just voice code one day and you speak to it and it'll start building your app. So I think it's not very far away from now.
It's like we talk about in our workshops also. It really comes down to ideas. At this point, building anything is not only feasible, but it's also economical, right? For everyone. The whole playing field is pretty leveled out for everyone. The differentiator now is, do you have an idea? And then most importantly, do you have the resilience to go execute it? That's really what it comes down to. All right. Thank you for sharing all of this. Sree will continue the discussion in future sessions, and I'd love for you to maybe even do a session on walk us through what you built.
You do that. I had to do it yesterday, so I have it. I can even send a recording of what we, when I was pitching, what was it about.
That would be good, actually.